This video is going to help you through your Chapter 2 and 3 lab. Some of it we talked about a little bit in class. There's an older video that you could also look at. I'll go ahead and leave that one up as well, and I'll label them old and new. This one is specifically for the Chapter 2-3 lab that you have on Moodle right now that will say _152 underscore new. When you open it, it may or may not open to the first tab that's hypothesis. If not, you want to just check at the bottom and make sure that you have this hypothesis one kind of bold face. And you may also want to, at the bottom left, bring this zoom in or zoom out a little bit. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to see it all on one page, even if the font is a little bit smaller. And on the first tab, it says, if you were going to roll the die 100 times, what do you think would happen? Do you think 3 would come out more than 4? Do you think they'd be about the same? Is 6, what do you think will happen? And so you just scroll down, and in this little box, you'll just type in your answer. And that's all you're going to do. What do you think would happen? On the next tab that says data, if you click on that, the data is in there. This is actually dice rolls that we rolled several years ago now, that originally I was going to have you roll in class, but I had a feeling we were going to run out of time. So that you don't have to actually roll a die 100 times, you have it right here, and it's broken up into 10 samples of 10. So the population is 100, but the samples that we're going to look at each have 10 in them. And the first part, what we're going to do is create a frequency table. Now, the easy way to do this, I would say, is probably just go ahead and count them either through highlighting them or changing the color on the font or something like that, and then clicking in the box and then just typing in how many you have. Now, you do have the option, if you looked at the older video, if going into this first box there, clicking inside there, and saying equal. So what the equal sign does is prompted to say, hey, don't put in the box what I type, but put the number in the box that you're going to find when I tell you what to do. So this is going to create what's called a function. And there's a billion functions that you can make Excel do. We're going to want them to count up the frequency. So I'm going to start typing frequency, and you can see that a bunch of them pop up. And I want frequency, so I'm going to double click on that. And then this little guy down here underneath will say, this is what you need to select. So the data array is just all the data. So I'm going to bring my cross over here to the first one under sample A and left click and hold it and then drag it over so it highlights that whole section. I'm going to let go, and that little kind of snake looking thing comes up around it. Then I'm going to put comma, and it says, what's the bins array? And that's what Excel calls the classes. But you're going to have to highlight it from the bottom up because you can see how it's kind of in the function is kind of in the way there. So I'm going to click on the 6, hold the left click, and then come all the way up. And then you'll see that pop up in the corner, and just hit enter, and it counts it up. But we don't want to have to do that all 6 more times. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on that box. And in the bottom right corner, there's like a little grabber. And so I'm going to take this thicker cross. You can see how it's like a white puffy cross, and go to the corner, and it will switch to be a skinny black cross. So when it switches, leave it there, left click, hold it again, and then drag this guy down. And when you let go, it counts. But it never counts the right way. So leave it highlighted, and with your left hand, press down F2 and Shift and hold it. And then with your right hand, with those other two still down, hit Control and then Enter, and it will switch. Or you can just count them, right? And so now we have these numbers. 14, 13, 22, 16, 18, 17. We know what the frequency is. So I'm going to take this box like this. And I'm going to say Control-C, click on the graphs page, and I'm going to make this smaller so that I can kind of toss this guy over here. And you see how it says zeros? If you say paste options, it will say values only, and you'll get the values. Or you can just type it over. And I want to make a histogram. Now, Excel's actually going to make a bar graph and not a histogram, but that's fine. So how do you make a histogram? Highlight just the frequencies. Go up to Insert, Column, and pick the first one, and it will pop up. Don't worry about series or, labeling or anything like that. You don't have to move any of the bars around. If you don't like blue, you can change it. There's lots of different options. You can click on it and do all kinds of great things with it, but that's fine just the way it is. What would you say that the distribution of your data it looks like? I would say this is pretty uniform. I'll just start typing that in, but yours might look different. It may look like it's completely different to you, maybe not. So now what we're going to do is we're going to compare on that page did what you think was going to happen actually happen? I didn't put a hypothesis in, but whatever your hypothesis was, what you thought was going to happen with that frequency distribution, is that what actually happened with these graphs? That's what you're going to type in compare. Yes, because it was uniform and I thought it was going to be uniform, or no, because I thought it'd be skewed and it's skewed right and it's skewed left. So whatever happened in there. For the hypothesis and the compare tabs, there's not like a right or a wrong answer. It's just what you think and then what happened, so that we can start to compare. And this kind of concept in 2 and 3 is going to roll into chapter 4 a little bit when we start talking about probability. So that was stuff from chapter 2. So now let's start talking about chapter 3 stuff, which was measures of center and variation. So when you click on population tab, unfortunately it's all the way down at the bottom, so we're going to have to scroll all the way up. And we want to find all of these things. We want to find the standard deviation, which is this little guy, for the population, which had a little bit of a different formula. The variance, the range, the mid-range, the mode, the mean, and the median. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do the next page. Ooh, that was Penny. Sorry. I'm just going to type in some numbers. Not 7 and 8. But what you're going to do for sample is you're going to come to this data and you're going to pick your favorite sample and say copy paste. So I'm going to pick that one and type him in here. And I'm going to change some of these guys just so it looks a little bit different. And what we want to do is find the same thing over here. I think I picked F. But we're not going to type all of this into our calculator. Now, for the sample, there's only 10. If you want to type it in your calculator, that's pretty easy to do. Over here on population, you're not going to want to have to type in 100 numbers. So I'm going to show you the functions on the sample. The first thing that we're going to do is we want to find the mean. So I'm going to click in the mean box and put equal. And unfortunately, in Excel, they still call it average. So I'm going to start typing average, and you see it pops up. And I want the one that just says regular average. And then it says, well, what numbers do you want to take the average of? And I'm going to go to this one in A2, left click and hold, and then drag down. And when you hit, and then let go. And then when you hit enter, it's going to say, oh, well, there's your average. There's your mean. Fantastic. So now I can come over here and say, I want this to be x minus x bar, because remember the long part of the formula is that it should say, and this should be square. If you were going to use the formula, we would say what data point you were going to use, this one, and then subtract the mean, which I found to be a 3.6. Yours will be different. And when you hit enter, you get that. Now, I don't want to do that every single time. I'm going to do it one more time. In that box, you hit equal, and you want the data point that you're talking about, which is this one. Subtract the mean that I just found over here, and then hit enter. But I don't want to do it 9 more times. I especially don't want to do it 99 more times when I'm on the other tab. So I'm going to click in the corner again and drag down. Then I want the one next to it to be that number squared. Remember, we found the difference and then we squared it. So I'm going to say equal to this box times, which is the little star key that's above, usually above the, I think it's the 6 or the 8, or if you have a number pad, it'll just be off to the right, times itself. And then click, go to the corner, and drag down. So now we're pretty close. Now what I would need to do is add all of these up. But again, math people are lazy. We don't like to have to type in numbers. So I'm going to highlight that, all of them, plus one more. So on the next page, you're going to have 100 highlighted plus one more. And then you're going to go over here to the right where it says Auto Sum. And when you click Auto Sum, it will add those things up for you. Okay. So this is what I needed to do to find standard deviation, the first part, right? I found the difference, square, add them all up, then divide by how many numbers I had. So I need this box divided by 9, right? Because you divide by one less for the sample. That was the variance. Oh, I get the same number as my mean. The standard deviation is the square root of that. So I want this box to be equal to the square, and as you start taking square root, it comes up. Click on that, of that number, and it will give you the square root. The rest of them are a lot easier. The range is the largest, which is 6 minus the smallest. The mid-range is going to be the largest plus the smallest, so 7 divided by 2. The mode, now this one's pretty small, so I can kind of just look at it and see that I have, let's see, I got 2 1s, 2 3s. I have a lot of modes here. 2 5s and 2 6s. You can also use the mode feature where if you start typing in it, you can type mode and it pops up. But to be honest with you, it doesn't always work so fantastic. Sometimes it only gives you one of them instead of if you have multiple. For median, you're going to say equal to and just start typing median. It will pop up. Highlight all the numbers like you did for the mean and hit enter, and it will find you the median. So now you're going to do that same thing on the population page, except instead of scrolling down 10, right, you're going to scroll down, down, down to 101. But better than typing it into your calculator. The only difference over here is that this piece is going to be divided by 100 and not 9. Because when it's a population, you don't have to say -1. But everything else is exactly the same. So now I have my population and my sample. I'm going to take my sample one more time, Control-C, come over to the box plot land, and you see that your box plot for your population is already in there. Type it into, highlight this sample part right here, and say Control-V, and you'll see all of this will pop up, mean, median, mode, and I had it round to the nearest whole number. I didn't have it take the exact one that we found on the other page. And you can look at our two box plots, and I want you to compare and contrast. What's the same? What's different? Where did 9 come from? Max of a 9. I don't see 9 anywhere. But and then you're going to compare what's the same and what's different. Of course, our max should be over here at the 6. I might have typed something in somewhere. But we have the same minimum, but you can see our quarters are different, our median's different. What's the same, what's different, and why do you think that it is? Why do you think that happened? Then, so you just type in here what you think, you save it, and you submit it. This will not be due until a week after the test, so that you'll have plenty of time. And that's how you can kind of go through Chapter 2 and 3 lab.